I'm making a story-driven, real-time, tactics-based digital card game, and I am getting close to being done with it. So I decided to start releasing some videos explaining different elements of its design, how we got here, so on and so forth, sort of like a retrospective devlog series. I've covered things like the game design, my ideas on the time investment problem, and my ideas on just various things, so we're going to do that again today. In this part, I would like to talk about my approach to card text. Now, I studied law for my undergraduate degree, so I technically can read, but I'm also mildly dyslexic, so I don't want to. I found that when playing other TCGs, the long card text can be a barrier to entry for newer players and a barrier to enjoyment for older ones. I'm actually kind of lucky because a lot of my time spent learning the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is well documented on my Saul Plays Anime channel, the channel that I used to stream and create content on. So I can just go back and see how confused I was learning about new interactions and effects as a new player. I'm also painfully aware of the fact that there are numerous decks that I am just willfully arrogant on because I refuse to read all of and learn their card effect. Now, I understand 1000% that this is a me problem, right? Like when you're looking at a game, it having a lot of text or a little bit of text, that doesn't determine whether or not it's good or bad. But if I am making a game for me that I'm supposed to enjoy and that hopefully you guys enjoy, but it's mostly about me, I'm gonna make sure that I don't have to read as much as other games because I don't want to do that. It just stands to reason that I would try and cut down on the amount of text. And so when making the Summoner's Nexus TCG, I did try to keep that in mind, but I will be honest in saying that at the outset of creating this game, that was a very difficult thing to do. At the earliest stages of development, in part because the game wasn't fully fleshed out in its mechanics, the effects were doing a lot of heavy lifting. So the effects were explaining things that maybe they shouldn't have had to explain. Like, rather than just saying, oh, hey, that card is ignited, it would explain, oh, that card loses 50 attack this turn and does it consecutively for the next couple of turns because we didn't have the mechanic of a card being ignited in place yet, for example. Once that was sorted out, though, it really did just become a problem of me not being concise enough in how I worded things, because it's actually a lot harder than it may seem. Like, being concise is actually a skill. Now, the very first time that I realized I was going to have to shorten my card text was when I initially tried to ship the game, because the Summoner's Nexus TCG, for anyone who doesn't know, was initially going to be a physical trading card game. I changed my mind because of COVID and other factors, but these were going to be paper cards that were going to be sent out, which means you can't have any changes and there's a limited amount of space for your card text. Like, I was finding that I was having to reduce the font of the cards that I was working on just so that the text would fit on said cards, because on a Word document, it looks like, oh yeah, this is just a line or two. It's very concise, it's very straightforward. But when you condense that and put that on a little paper card, well, suddenly that 2 lines becomes a paragraph, right? So you had to find a way around it. You had to workshop it. That was the first thing that made me realize I need to dumb it down. And I realized that I was effectively recreating one of the very problems that I was trying to run away from. I sat down for like 3 days and went through every single card effect that I had and just abbreviated it, just shortened it, keeping the exact same message intact, but just choosing better words and ways of communicating those effects. But then this wasn't exactly consistent because certain cards would be abbreviated in one way and other cards would be done in a different way. So I ended up creating easy access card text, which is basically problem solving card text from Yu-Gi-Oh! But in a different format to fit just a different set of rules, because consistency in how the cards are read was also very important. That way, when I read them, I can immediately understand, okay, this is the cost, this is the effect, this is what I get, rather than having to explain that in the card text itself. Rather than saying that you pay this as a cost and you do this and you do that, I could use the format to my advantage to inform the player of how the card was being structured. That being said, I did want to take it a step further. Now, I know that certain TCGs don't like the idea of keywords, right? You have Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, if I say, oh, this is piercing damage or this is burn damage, you know what that means if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player. But for a long time, Yu-Gi-Oh! As a company has shied away from having too many keywords in their game because they don't want to alienate new players, which makes sense. If I've never played a game before and you say a word that's part of your vocabulary, it goes right over my head and I might just keep on walking rather than getting to engage with whatever you've put in front of me. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Has become more friendly towards words like that as time has gone on, so it might not be the best example, but you get the idea. And I was in agreement that, you know, having keywords just kept new players away. You want people to have easy access to your game. But then I realized that the Summoner's Nexus TCG was going to be a digital card game. You see, my game isn't a traditional TCG. It's not physical, which means that I can change my card text, I can change my synergy ratings, I can balance the game on a whim. And another advantage that I got, and I only realized sort of later on, was the benefit of hyperlinks. Well, sort of, right? I can have card text be highlighted, allowing the player to push on a button and then gain a full explanation of whatever it is, whatever keyword I just tried to introduce to them, if they didn't understand it themselves, right? You don't have to push the button, but if you read some text and you don't understand what it says, well, you can push that button and find out the definition. The normal problem with keywords is the lack of a clear definition in an easily accessible way, right? You might need to go online or ask someone what a given word means, but with this, it's right in front of you. You can be in the middle of a game, tap on it, open a small window, and close it and continue playing the game. So now I can make my card text really, really short, not be worried about alienating new players. I mean, if they want to learn about the effects and what the keywords mean, yes, it will mean a bit more reading for them the first time, but once they know, boom, we're solid. Existing players won't have that barrier to entry, and so it's just shorter card text for everyone involved. This obviously isn't revolutionary because there's other digital card games out there, but it definitely changed my game for the better and made it so that I could have very simple, very easy to digest card effects for the most part. Obviously, as the game gets more complex, card effects might end up getting longer and I might need to revisit this, but that is my current working solution. And hey, I can always make more keywords later on as well. There's no real limit, so you know, we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing so you can stay up to date with the news on the game, when it's going to be released, so on and so forth, when the open beta is coming out, and how you can support us, right? There's links in the description to check that out. Thank you again and have a wonderful day. Bye.